Welcome back. Last part I talked about January, February, and March in video games, highlighting some of the good and the bad, and in this part I will be continuing that. I will talk about April, May, June, and honestly, since this video is being made in August, why not talk about July too? Many big things happened in these 4 months. Let's begin now. Like and subscribe for more like this. For most of April, as far as big game releases go, it wasn't too busy, however there are notable games to remember. Before that, why don't we talk about news pieces? Legendary Entertainment, an American film production company, secured the film rights for Capcom's Street Fighter franchise. Who knows what they will do with this? Street Fighter does have a history of being adapted into other media, but they weren't exactly memorable. Let me know if you have watched any of them. PlayStation acquired Firewalk Studios, who is working on Concord, an upcoming sci-fi PvP multiplayer FPS coming to PS5 and PC next year. Nintendo dropped the final pre-launch trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, getting players excited once again for what is basically considered the most anticipated game of the year. Don't worry, of course I'm going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom for May. Now, games. Minecraft Legends, a long-awaited spin-off from Minecraft, is a real-time strategy game that released on multiple platforms as well as day one on Game Pass. Unfortunately, the game did not do too well, as many criticized it for being forgettable. People did like it in the beginning though. I guess at the end of the day, just play Minecraft. The Mage Seeker, a League of Legends story. Riot Games has been committed to expanding League of Legends outside of MOBA. While a lot of people don't like League, people love League champions, and with their heavy lore, they can make a lot of stories. So Riot made one with Sylas, and it didn't blow up, but it still did good. It is a 2D pixel graphic style RPG where you play as Sylas trying to liberate Demacia. Finally, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. No matter how good your game is, if it is unplayable, none of that matters. And that's exactly what happened here, on PC at least. It's one of those games where the PC version was so bad that the launch day reviews were not exactly the nicest, justifiably. It got so bad that there had to be a formal apology. Almost 4 months later and people are still complaining, but the complaints seem to be lessening. Despite that, even those who have overall good reviews are acknowledging the performance problems. As far as the game goes though, yeah, it's doing alright. The gameplay, graphics, story, characters, everything seems to be very good. Not like Game of the Year contender good, but one of the defining games of the year. May was, inconsistent. Let's talk about that before we talk about you know what. The month began with Redfall and ew. I don't think anyone seemed to like this game. Bland mechanics, poor writing, uninspiring missions, and on top of that, the PC performance is awful. Literally, the only good thing about this game is that in the beginning, when it was first revealed, people were pretty excited. This was also supposed to be Xbox's game that will create a lot of competition and bring them back. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to work. But yeah, that's Redfall. The sequel to Darkest Dungeon released, a popular indie game involving turn-based tactics. People do seem to like it, however, it falls short when it is being said that the previous game is far superior. I guess maybe get the predecessor if you want to get into this game. The Outlast Trials, a co-op spin on the famous horror game, there is a lot of content and people really liked it. It's just that many feel that it isn't that scary, but I guess for a game that is this iconic, it just shows that whether something is scary or not is subjective. The Lord of the Rings Gollum released. PlayStation held its highly anticipated PlayStation Showcase after being absent in 2022. Honestly, looking back, I might have been a little too harsh on this, but despite that, I feel that it wasn't the strongest, especially considering what presentations happened in the next month. And the month ended with System Shock Remake. This game took a very long time to release, taking 3 real attempts to develop it, and it worked. System Shock has been considered one of those games that desperately needed a remaster or a remake, considering it is an iconic first-person shooter from the 90s. This game has been released just in time for the ongoing trend of remakes and remasters, a faithful recreation to the original. And now, the month-defining, year-defining, console-defining, franchise-defining, genre-defining game released, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. In 2019, the announcement to this game was revealed and got the whole industry excited, being titled the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for a very long time. I still have yet to play this because I am still playing Red Dead Redemption 2, but that's beside the point. one of the highest rated games ever, already the second best selling Zelda game. It sold 10 million copies over its launch weekend. 10 million! And as of June 2023, it has been recorded with 18.51 million sales. Absolutely insane. You know, as this game was getting to its release, I was wondering how they could possibly top this game, but somehow with its story and newly added gameplay mechanics, they actually did, or at least that is what everyone who finished the game is saying. People are saying that this game has basically secured Game of the Year, and while it is super likely, remember not to hold your breath with this. I absolutely cannot wait to getting around to playing this game, as I do own a copy. June. What an absolutely insane month this was. First, game releases. Street Fighter 6 released and it is doing great. I don't really follow fighting games, but Street Fighter 6 seems to be considered a big improvement over the predecessor. Diablo 4 also released, and is another live service that had a strong start. Not my kind of game, but I see the appeal. Final Fantasy 16 finally released, the big JRPG of the year that many were looking forward to. Final Fantasy 15 was the first mainline Final Fantasy to switch to action-based combat, and while the game is not considered bad, it's not exactly a franchise-defining one. Then came Final Fantasy VII Remake, which made a lot of big improvements and took out the open world aspect and created a faithful remake of the original, even if it is not the entire story, and it was much, much better. So how does 16 do? The game sold over 3 million copies. Great, right? Well, apparently Final Fantasy 16 selling over 3 million has led to their stock price being declined. There have been reports that it underperformed, but Square Enix does consider these sales to be strong. Review-wise, it did well from both critics and players. Everybody Want to Switch released, and it is a thing. As mentioned before, E3 was cancelled this year, and its future looks bleak, but despite that, presentations are going to exist regardless, and there were so many. What a wild few weeks it was. Now, if I were to talk about every big announcement from these presentations, we would be here all day, but I will say, to have 3 different highly anticipated presentations, and all of them were enjoyable? When was the last time this happened? Kicking off with the Summer Game Fest, with announcements for Marvel Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Sonic Superstar. Then following with the Xbox Game Showcase with announcements for Star Wars Outlaws and Atlus's next big JRPG, aside from Persona 6, Metaphor ReFantazio. Then, the Nintendo Direct finishes it off with the next mainline Mario game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Super Mario Bros. RPG Remake was also there, and an untitled Princess Peach game was announced to be in the works. July was quiet in terms of game releases. The 2 big releases were Exoprimal and Pikmin 4. Exoprimal is still being talked about as it is a live service game, and people think it is solid, but not exactly worth $60, and Pikmin 4 did fantastic with its reviews. Its sales are great as well. We don't have the official worldwide numbers just yet, but it is topping charts in the launch week and the following weeks. Finally, this game has released after so many years of just being a thing. Since this game is not exactly one of the bigger releases, the real big thing was that the Microsoft Activision acquisition was officially over. Like, it is 100% going through and is fully approved. Big news. That will do it for this last part. Let me know what your thoughts are on the first half of 2023, as well as July. And since this video is being released in August, what do you think about August so far? Are you excited for Armored Core? Are you playing Baldur's Gate 3? Let me know everything about that, and I will see you next time.